Welcome to episode 149, continuing the summer series and concluding the summer series with myth number 10, eating after 8 p.m. causes weight gain. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Real World Nutrition Podcast. This is Shelley Rael. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist and the host and founder of Real World Nutrition. So in this episode, this is the final episode of the summer series where I've been addressing common nutrition myths. And over the past 10 weeks now, I've been addressing and debunking a variety of myths. And today I'm wrapping this series up with myth number 10, eating after 8 p.m. causes weight gain. So let me get into this myth. And I want to explain this a little bit more about the myth. Many of you have heard the advice of don't eat it after 8 p.m. or you'll gain weight, but you may have heard a different time. I've heard people say 8 o'clock. I've heard people say 7 o'clock. I've heard others even say 4 o'clock in the afternoon to stop eating so they don't gain weight. Now, this belief often stems from this idea that late night eating automatically leads to weight gain. And the reasoning behind this myth is that eating late at night allows your body less time to burn off those calories, leading them to being stored as fat. But is it really that simple? I want to address this a bit more. The truth is this. Weight gain is more about the overall quality and the quantity of the food you consume rather than the specific timing of when you eat it. So let me go into that a little bit more. I previously addressed all calories are created equal when they are not. I mean, a calorie is a calorie, yet some are more satiating or help us feel more full, while others may lead us to desiring more food. And the quantity of the food, or more how many calories you consume overall, is more important than what time you may be eating those calories. So here's the deal. The human body does not have a clock that switches into fat storage mode or weight gain mode after a certain arbitrary time that we've come up with. So we do have our internal body clocks saying that we need to sleep, we need to eat, that sort of thing. But in reality, does your body know that it's 8:03 instead of 7:58? What happens if you travel to a different time zone? Does your body know what time that is? When I've traveled to different time zones, yeah, I may have a habit of eating at a specific time, but does my body know what that is? And I just remind people the time that we have all mutually agreed to, you have to realize that as a world, as a population, we have all decided what time means when in fact it is completely really made up by humans that we are looking at a clock saying it's 7:32 or 5:32 or 10:32. So consider that. So really what matters is how many calories you eat throughout the day and how many calories you burn throughout the day. So let me talk a little bit more about some evidence versus anecdotes. So there's been several studies that have examined the relationship between meal timing and weight gain. And there is some research that suggests that those who eat later in the evening have a higher likelihood of consuming more calories. But this is not because of the timing necessarily. It could be a contributing factor, but it's more of the types of food choices we're making later in the evening. So for instance, I say this to my students and clients all the time. When you're hungry or you're snacking at night, you're more likely to reach for high calorie snacks, comfort foods, potentially larger portions when eating late, rather than those more nutritious foods. Yes, there might be people who are reaching for a bowl of strawberries or having a salad, but really, are people really eating those types of foods later in the evening when they're reaching for those comfort foods? So again, this is going to be more related to overall calorie intake rather than the timing of eating. So it doesn't seem that the time, again, is what causes the weight gain. Other times people will say, well, you're going to bed. Well, sure, you're going to bed, but your body is still doing a lot of calorie burning while you're asleep. You're not dead. You are asleep. And your body does a lot of work while it's asleep. So you may not feel great going to sleep right after you've eaten, but that doesn't mean it's all going to start turning to fat when you've eaten and then gone to bed. So here's a couple of studies that I'll mention here. Is one study in the Journal of Obesity found the total calorie intake is a stronger predictor of weight gain than meal timing. So again, the total calorie intake is a predictor of weight gain rather than the timing of the meal. And another study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that meal frequency and timing did not affect weight loss when the calories were held constant. So 3 meals a day versus 1 meal a day, as long as the calories were the same, didn't affect weight loss or even weight gain. So again, the takeaway is that it's the number of calories you consume versus the number of calories you burn that determines weight gain or weight loss, not the time of day. So let me give a couple more examples here. People have told me, I don't know why this comes up, but it does. Well, sumo wrestlers eat right before they go to bed to help them gain weight. And my response to that is sumo wrestlers may be having their eighth meal of the day, and so that is the time it helps them have yet another meal or source of calories to help them gain weight. It doesn't mean because they're eating late at night, they're gaining weight. They may be wanting to gain weight and yet are fitting in one more meal before they go to bed. The other part is this, is I'm going to give an example of 2,000 calories. This is not my recommendation, but I'm just saying if you, for example, needed 2,000 calories on average per day to maintain weight, if you've only eaten 1,800 calories by 8 o'clock at night, in theory, you could still have another 200 calories to maintain. Not saying you need to, but But on the other hand, if at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you've already had 2,000 calories for the day, if you eat more, you're going over your calorie needs, and it could contribute to weight gain if you do this consistently. So another way to look at this is maybe by 8 o'clock at night, you've actually reached your calorie allotment, so to speak, for the day, and anything you may eat after that is in excess of what you need. Consider that. All right, so let me get to some practical tips here. What can you do to help minimize some of that late at night eating without feeling deprived? So this is one I talk about all the time. Number one is mindful eating. Pay attention to your hunger cues. Are you really hungry, or are you eating out of boredom, stress, habit? I remember years back, my husband would have a bowl of cereal at night. And I often asked him, not often, I asked him pointedly one time, are you eating that cereal because you're hungry? Because I know we had dinner earlier. Do we need to make more for dinner? Or are you eating that cereal out of habit? It was just a question. It wasn't a judgment. It was my curiosity. And he did acknowledge it was probably more habit than hunger. He was used to having that bowl of cereal before he went to bed. No big deal. It wasn't a health concern. There was no problem with it. I was just curious if it was hunger or habit. How about some healthy late night snack options? So if you do have that need for a late night snack, and I'm using the term late night loosely here. For me, 8 o'clock is late at night most days of the week. Do something healthy. A portion of Greek yogurt with some berries or almonds or both. Veggies with hummus. That can be satisfying without being excessive. If you're hungry, those are some healthy options. Number 3, how about some portion control? So even if you eat late, just pay attention to portion sizes. A small snack is fine, a handful of nuts, a handful of something, but don't grab the whole bag, which could potentially be leading to overeating. And you're trying not to overeat and you're winding down. And then here's a big thing. Number 4 is having balanced meals during the day. So ensure that your meals throughout the day are balanced with protein, fiber, healthy fats to keep you satisfied, which can reduce the likelihood of excessive hunger or cravings at night. I find that people skip breakfast, skip lunch, and then mid-afternoon, it's pretty much nonstop eating. And really balancing the meals throughout the day is preferred. So with that, I hope these myths and misinformation, these common nutrition myths, as well as today's, is something that has helped you. I've covered 10 of these myths this summer, and I guarantee you there are countless more myths. Nutrition misinformation is everywhere, and it can be overwhelming to know what to believe. I really do my best to keep up on what information is being thrown out there, especially with so many social media accounts and ways to get this information these days. It is really difficult to keep up sometimes. So that's why it's so important to stay informed and rely on some evidence, not some, on evidence-based information. So I really do hope that this series helped you gain some better understanding of some of the most common myths out there, but also what you can do to navigate the world of nutrition information. So I do want to say I am going to continue to tackle and address more myths with this podcast. It won't be exclusively nutrition myths, but also provide you tools to help you decipher the misinformation in future episodes. What is challenging with this is that a lot of times this nutrition misinformation or myths does have some negative truth in there. So that makes it much more complex to decipher the truth versus the fiction in there and what is hype and what isn't. So I'm going to continue to bring this information to you. All right, so again, just thanks so much for joining me throughout this series. I hope you enjoyed it. I love talking about nutrition myths and misinformation and clearing things up for people to help them be less stressed about their food choices. So if you have found these episodes helpful, share them with others. I encourage you to follow this podcast, however you're listening to it. I listen on Apple Podcasts, so that's the follow button, but I know there's lots of other apps. So I encourage you to subscribe or follow however your podcast platform has you do that, so you get the new episode every single Friday in your feed. And I look forward to continuing to provide you with more information, helping you on your nutrition journey, debunking myths, helping you make informed decisions about your health and nutrition. Until next time, take care and bye for now.